Please tell others to join soon. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen now. So do you remember where we had stopped last class? Anyone? So we were discussing about the basic building blocks of UML. There were three basic building blocks. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. So there were three basic building blocks. First was things, then the second building block was relationships, and the third is diagrams. So we had already discussed things and the different categories of things in UML. Then we discussed about the basic relationships in UML. There were four basic relationships, and the third one is diagrams. So what are diagrams in UML? These diagrams in UML, they are a representation, and this representation is for the representation is used to visualize the static as well as the dynamic behavior of the system. So there are certain views. We can define a system from different views, and the different views of a system, of a software system, can be classified into five types of views, and that's shown here. That is, one is the design view, next is the implementation view, then deployment view, and the process view. And above all this, you have the use case view. And these are the five different views of a system. And to visualize these views of a system, we use diagrams in UML. The UML diagrams are used to visualize the different views of a system. You cannot visualize a system using a single view. Just like when we speak of a building, you have the plan for the building, the front view, top view, side view, etc. Different views of for a three-dimensional figure. For a software also, we have different views, and these different views include the main different views as shown in this diagram. That is, you have the design process view, design view, implementation view, deployment view, and use case view. And to visualize these views, we use the UML diagrams. So these diagrams mostly they have static as well as dynamic aspects. Those things that do not change are called static aspects of the system, and those aspects which keep on changing, they are known as dynamic aspects. Like if you're giving in an input and if the system is responding by giving an output which the customer desires, then we call it as a dynamic aspect of the system. So to visualize all these views, we use UML diagrams. Now, these diagrams can be classified into two types, that is static or structural diagrams and dynamic or behavioral diagrams. So the entire UML diagram, there are a lot of UML diagrams, especially the basic diagrams include 9 types. And of these 9 types, some of the diagrams are classified as structural or static diagrams, and some of the diagrams are classified as dynamic or behavioral diagrams. Now, what are the diagrams that come under static or structural diagrams, and what are the diagrams included in the dynamic or behavioral diagrams? So first we have static or structural diagrams. So can you hear me? Hello? Okay. So what are the different types of diagrams in UML? How can you classify the different diagrams in UML? Hello? Harida, can you unmute yourself and answer? Okay, static and dynamic. Okay. Now we are going to look at what are the static diagrams and what are the dynamic or behavioral diagrams. So static diagrams include class diagram. The first static diagram is the class diagram. And a class diagram, it captures the static design view of the system. So you have the different views of the system. There is the design view. And for the design view, we have the static as well as dynamic aspects. So the static aspects of design view is captured by the class diagram. And it gives a representation, a pictorial representation of the classes, interfaces, collaborations, and relationships. We have discussed these are the things in UML. Classes, interfaces, and collaborations are the things in UML. And the relationship connecting these classes, we represent it with different relationships, and our relationships have already been discussed. And so to represent the classes, interfaces, collaborations, and the relationship among them, we use the class diagram. And if the class diagram includes classes which are active class is another UML, another structural thing in UML. And if it involves active classes, then such a diagram will address the static process view of the system. So those that include normal classes address the static design view of the system, and those that include active classes will address the static process view of the system. So class diagrams come under two views. These two views can be represented using class diagram. For the static design view, we use normal classes, and when the classes are active classes which are involved, then it will address the static process view of the system. So that is the use of class diagram for addressing the static design view and static process view of the system. Next diagram in structural diagram is the object diagram. Now, the object diagram shows a set of objects. As you know, objects are instances of classes, and these objects, they communicate with each other by sending and receiving messages. And to show the relationship between these objects, which are the objects that communicate with which other objects, and to show the relationship, to show the visualization of such communication among objects, we use object diagram. So it shows a set of objects and their relationship, and this shows since it is showing the objects that are involved in communication, it's just a structural organization between objects. That is, if object 1 wants to communicate with object 2, then there is a relationship between object 1 and 2. And similarly, if object 2 wants to communicate with another object 3, then again they are related to each other. So this relationship, it shows a structural organization of how the objects relate to each other. And this will address the static process view and static design. As just like class diagram, object diagram also addresses the static process view and static design view of the system. Then the third diagram is the component diagram. Component diagram shows the organization and dependencies among components. As we said earlier, components are UML things, and this includes replaceable parts of a system, and such components, the components and how they are related to each other, they are shown using component diagrams. And usually files, the program files, etc., come under components. Then next is the deployment diagram, and it shows the configuration of runtime processing nodes. As you know, nodes is another thing in UML, which has some processing capabilities, some memory, and such things, just like a server machine is an example of a node. And these nodes and how these nodes are communicating with other nodes can be shown with the help of a deployment diagram. And this deployment diagram, it addresses the static deployment view of the system. So since we are speaking about all static diagrams, these diagrams will address the static view, but the view might differ. Like the component diagram addresses the static implementation view, then deployment diagram addresses the static deployment view, etc. So the views that the different diagrams represent may differ. Then another diagram that is used for showing the organization is package diagram, and it shows the organization of packages. Package is nothing but a group of a collection of items which come doing similar functionality. They are grouped into one package, and how these packages communicate with each other and what are the packages involved in the system can be shown with the help of a package diagram. And packages are usually organizational parts of UML, and they are used for organizing use cases and use case diagrams and class diagrams. And any component which does similar functionalities can be placed inside a package. And package is one of the UML thing which we have studied earlier, and its representation was also shown earlier. So these are the structural diagrams in UML. Class diagram, object diagram, component diagram, and deployment diagram are the structural diagrams in UML. One more diagram is the package diagram, and this diagram, normally the basic diagram, it doesn't come as a basic diagram, but it's an additional diagram involved. Then next is the dynamic or behavioral diagrams in UML. So the dynamic aspects of the system, they can be represented in UML using 5 diagrams. The first one is the use case diagram. And this use case diagram is for capturing the functionalities of the system. What are the functionalities the system will do? And that is captured in the use case diagram. And it captures the requirements. Basically, this diagram, it is included in the analysis phase of the project. That is, when you are after analyzing the system, you get the system requirements, and to represent the system requirements as a diagram, you use the use case diagram. And this diagram, it consists of use cases. A use case is a thing in UML, then actors or the users interacting with the system, and how these use cases are connected to these actors, and that is called the relationships. So in a use case diagram, an actor can be a person or a thing that interacts with the system. And anybody who's going to give an input, or somebody who's going to take the output from the system, can act as an actor. And this actor is represented as a human symbol in use case diagram. Then use case, as we said earlier, it is a thing in UML. The definition was also said earlier. It is a sequence of interaction between the actor and the system. Once a user gives in an input, the system performs a sequence of actions, and finally a result is returned to the actor. And this sequence of interactions is called a use case. So use case takes in an input from the actor, and it gives a result of value to the user. The next diagram is the sequence diagram. So it is a type of interaction. There are 2 types of interaction diagram. One is the sequence diagram, and the next is the collaboration diagram. So sequence diagram and collaboration diagram together, they are known as interaction diagrams. And this interaction diagram shows a sequence in the sequence diagram, which is an interaction diagram. It shows the time ordering of messages. That is, the message which has been sent first will be aligned on top, and it is just like in an XY. The diagram I'll show you. Diagrams examples are at the end. So we'll come to the examples later. Anyway, sequence diagram will show the time ordering of messages. Whereas collaboration diagram, it shows the structural organization of objects that send and receive. That is, which object is sending a request to which other object, and the order in which these messages are sent, etc., is shown in the collaboration diagram. So these two diagrams, we can say that they are isomorphic. That is, one diagram can be converted to another. If given a sequence diagram, you can convert it into a collaboration diagram. And once if you get a collaboration diagram, it can be converted to a sequence diagram. And these diagrams, since they are interaction diagrams, it is suitable for modeling real-time systems which respond in real time. And since we are addressing the behavior of the system, these diagrams, they address the dynamic view of the system. Now, collaboration diagram. It is also an interaction diagram, but it shows the organization of objects sent by which all objects they send messages to which other objects. The objects, the diagram consists of objects and the messages exchanged between the objects. So as I said earlier, these two interaction diagrams, they are isomorphic. That is, one can be transformed to another. The next diagram is the state chart diagram, the fourth diagram in UML, which shows the behavior of a system, is the state chart diagram. And state chart diagram, as you know, there is a set of states, and from one state there is to move then the system jumps to another state. There is a transition occurring, and the transition occurs in response to certain events. And these, whenever an event occurs, the system transitions to a new state. So to represent the state and its transitions in response to its external events, we use the state chart diagram. It's similar to a state machine which you had studied earlier. The states are represented. There will be states and there will be transitions. And to move from one state to another state, there is an external stimuli occurring in the form of events. Once an event occurs in a particular state, the system will transition itself to another state. And this diagram is used for modeling reactive systems. Then next is the activity diagram. It is a special kind of state chart diagram. Just like moving from one state to another, activity diagram also shows movement from one activity to another, or a transition from one activity to another, and it shows the flow control among objects. That is, the order in which the objects are getting activated. That is shown in the activity diagram. So these are the 5 diagrams, the behavioral diagrams in UML. That is, the behavioral diagrams include use case diagram, then sequence diagram, collaboration diagram, state chart diagram, and activity diagram. So using these diagrams, we can represent the different views of a system. So that's about UML, and using these diagrams, we will be representing certain systems. The examples are listed at the end. Now, before going on to the example, there are certain mechanisms that should be covered. That is, in UML, there is a mechanism called the UML extensibility mechanism, because we come across these syntax or these symbols frequently in UML diagrams. So you have to know what it represents. So, can anyone answer how many structural diagrams are there in UML? How many structural diagrams? Okay, 5 structural diagrams, and how many behavioral diagrams? Okay, 5 structural diagrams and 5 behavioral diagrams. And using these diagrams, we can represent how many views of the system? How many views are there for a system? Four views. What are the views? What are those views? Design view. Only one person is answering always. Mridula, can you give the other views? Mridula sir, can you hear me? Atul, Atul Dinesh. Okay, Mridula, what are the other views? Design views already said. You had shown it with a figure, isn't it? How many views are there now? Is it 4 or 5? How many views? There are 5 views. Process view, design view, implementation view, deployment view, and use case view. Okay, out of which you said only one, that is the design view. There are 5 views for the system: process view, design view, implementation view, deployment view, and use case view. So all these views address different views, different parts of the views of the system. Like use case will address the requirements of the system. Design view addresses design of the system. Process view addresses what are the different processes involved in the system. Deployment view, implementation view addresses how the system is going to be implemented, and deployment view addresses how the system will look like once it is deployed to the end user, once it starts functioning. So these are the different views, and to address these views, we use these diagrams. And each of these views, they have a static as well as dynamic part. And to address static parts, we use the static diagrams or the structural diagrams in UML, which are classified as 5 diagrams. And the dynamic parts, to address the dynamic parts, we have the behavioral diagrams. And again, there are 5 behavioral diagrams in UML. And all these diagrams together, you need addresses a particular system. So next, coming to the UML extensibility mechanism. So it is a mechanism which helps the language to be extended in control ways. That is, there are certain definitions which are defined by UML, but if I want to extend the standard language vocabulary of UML, I can extend it in permissible ways using these 3 mechanisms. That is, one is stereotypes, second is tagged values, and third is constraints. So stereotype extends the standard language vocabulary. There is something is defined in UML. Like there are certain symbols which are defined in UML, but if I want to extend that functionality to include my own definitions, then I can use the stereotypes. For example, this represents a rectangle with a name inside. It represents a class named database. But if I want to add my own definition to this class, I can use the stereotype mechanism. And stereotype is written using angle brackets, double angle brackets, and inside the angle brackets, I can define what this represents. So I'm giving my own definition, like it is this database is a metadata. Then to give new definitions, we can use this mechanism of stereotype, so that when the design it helps for easy communication of the design. What one person means can be explained. Or if you want to define your own views, it can be done using stereotypes. And the stereotype, it is often placed above the name of another element. Here the element is a class name database, and above that you can define what that class represents, and that can be done using stereotypes. Then tagged values, it will extend the properties of UML. Here we said we are extending the vocabulary of the meaning of UML basic units. Here I'm extending the name of the class, which is a basic unit in UML, basic thing in UML. Now, if I want to extend the properties of the UML elements, then I can use tagged values. And tagged values, they are usually written in curly brackets and just below the name of the thing you want to extend. And here, suppose this cube, it represents an UML thing called the node. Nodes, the cube represents a node in UML, and here the node, the name of the node is server. This is a machine named which is named as server. And if I want to write the properties of the server, I can use the tagged values. And tagged values are often written in curly brackets, and inside the curly bracket, I can define the property, like the number of processors is equal to 3, and this represents a tagged value. It is helpful for adding new information, and hence we can call it as metadata. It is represented by a string, and it is enclosed in curly brackets, and it is often placed below the name of the element which we want to extend. And the string includes there is a tag, the processor. This is a string which is called the tag. Then there is an equal to symbol in between, and then the value of the tag is written after the equal to. Equal to is the separator, and then you have the value of the tag. So stereotypes, tagged values, and the third extensibility mechanism is constraints. Constraints specifies conditions that must be satisfied for a system. Like in this example, we have shown there is a class named bank account, and this bank account are of two types: corporate account as well as a personal account. And then here the account can be either of these two. Either it can be of this type, first type, or it can be of a second type. So to show that relationship, to show that constraint, we use the dependency relation. The dashed lines represent dependency relationship. This dashed line, as we said earlier, this is a dependency relationship, and can after by the side of the dependency relationship, you can write the condition or the constraint in curly brackets. So or means either of these two. The bank account can be either of these two. Then again, even without a relationship, I can write a simple constraint near the bank account. I'm writing inside curly bracket. I'm writing the condition that it is secure. The bank account should be secure. The condition can be written above the UML thing and using curly brackets. So these are some of the examples of UML. So you have the first representation of a class called the alarm class, and you have two member functions. One is start and stop. The plus indicates the visibility of that function. There are three visibilities: private, public, and protected. If it is public, then you use the plus symbol, and private uses minus symbol. Then this is the state representation for an alarm on state. This alarm can be either an on state or an off state. So to show the state representation, states are usually represented as rounded rectangles in UML. The corners are rounded. So rounded rectangles represent states in UML, whereas normal rectangle represents classes in UML. So this first thing is a normal rectangle, it represents class. Here the rectangle is a rounded rectangle, and so it represents states in UML. Now this simple diagram, it shows an alarm timer class interaction. There is a class named alarm, another class named timer, and this timer alarm depends on the time set by the timer. There is a relationship between the alarm class and the timer class, and it is shown by association relationship. A solid line with an arrow represents association relationship. Now, here this is an example of generalization where the audio visual indicator is a special type of an alarm class. There are different types of alarm classes, and one special class is the audio visual indicators class, which is a type of alarm class. And so to show the specialization, that is audio visual indicator is a specialized class of alarm class. To show specialization, we use this relationship. So specialization and generalization are two opposite terms. Audio visual indicator is a specialized class of alarm, and alarm is the generalized class of audio visual indicators. Next is alarm is a part of warning system. So to show a part of relationship, we use aggregation, and so aggregation can be represented as these are all examples of these relationships. So aggregation is a part shows a part of relationship. So warning system is a part of alarm. So to represent that a part of relationship, we use the aggregation symbol, which was covered earlier. Aggregation and its symbols representing the various relationship has been covered earlier. The next is a simple class diagram. How we can represent a class diagram? So this shows a company class which has departments and offices, and the solid diamond at the end, it shows that a strong relationship. There is the department, there should be departments for the company to exist. So that is a strong ownership relationship. And that is we call that as composition relationship. And departments have various locations, and they are located in different offices. Then for each department, there is a person class, and there is one manager. There are several departments, and each department has one manager. And here there are one or more members in different departments. The star represents more than one. So we call these numbers, the star and one, etc., as cardinality of the relationship. So since these are solid lines, as we have discussed earlier, this shows association relationship, and association has adornments. Adornments is giving additional meaning to these relationships. So cardinality is one adornment, then naming the relationship is another adornment for association. So this class diagram, it shows companies having several departments located at different places, and for the offices there is a headquarters. So it is a generalization relationship between office and the headquarters. So this is a simple class diagram. I think you have studied all this in S4. I'm just going through it. Next is the use case diagram. This was a university question. Draw the use case diagram for seatbelt warning system. So here, this shows the actors. Use case diagram consists of actors and use cases connected by association relationship. So the main three things in a use case diagram is the actors, then the use cases, which is shown in oval solid lines, and then the association relationship. So these are the main things in use case diagram. So here we can see that there is the actors can be either things or it can be human users interacting with the system. Here it shows the seat belt. Then there is an ignition key to turn on this system, the automobile. Then there is an alarm. That is, if the once the ignition key is on and if the seat belt is not activated, then the alarm will start and it will beep for some time, and then if the seat belt is put on, then the alarm will stop, or if the ignition key is off, again the alarm will go off. So that system is summarized as a single use case. A use case represents a single scenario, that is enabling or disabling alarm is the use case which is represented here. And the inputs are from the seat belt and the ignition key, and the output goes to the alarm. This shows a sequence diagram. As we said earlier, it shows time ordering of messages. Like for the seatbelt warning system, the ignition key, once it is triggered, the timer will wait for some time for the user to put on the seatbelt. If the time is out, if the time is out and the seatbelt is not worn, then the alarm is triggered. And once the alarm beeps for some time, and then even if after the after 5 seconds, if the alarm is not, if the seatbelt is not worn, then it will time out and it will return back. And this is one scenario of seatbelt warning system, which we will discuss in detail in module 2. Then next we have the structural description. As we said earlier, the structural diagrams are used for describing the structure of the system. We have the class diagram, object diagram representing the structure of the system. And objects in UML, they are represented same, just like a rectangle as we see in classes. And but there is a name written here, that is D1 is the name of the object, colon, there is the class name, display. So D1 is the object that belongs to the class display. So object name colon class name is the syntax. Hello. So these are the basic things that you have already studied. I'm just revising all these topics. As you know, class diagram also is used, which we said earlier, a generalization and specialization, two opposite terms, which is shown again here with an example. It shows multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance means there will be multiple base classes for a single derived class. So these are the object interaction with each other. You have three objects communicating with each other by sending messages. Etc. So next we have to continue with the behavioral description. Behavioral description, and what are the events that causes the system to change its behavior. So we'll continue in the next class. Now take your attendance. Roll number 1. Roll number 1. Okay. 2. Okay. Roll number 5. Roll number 6. 7. 8. Roll number 8, Ashwin. Roll number 9, Atul. Atul. Roll number 11. Roll number 12.
Present.
Roll number 12.
Present, Miss.
Okay. Roll number 13. Roll number 14. Roll number 16. Roll number 17. 18. 20. 22. 23. Roll number 23. Roll number 23, present or absent? Absent. Roll number 24. Roll number 26. Roll number 27. 27. Sriraj MV. Absent. Subin Raj, 28. Vishnu P, 29. Vishnu P. Amrita P, 30. Amrita P. Amrita P. Are you present here? Ashwati C. Didina. Harita. Amal Santosh. Amal Santosh. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all.